Hi everybody. So today I was reading my Bible and I'm studying John, the book of John, and going back and forth between, the book and my notes. I went ahead and went back to this book that I have used before. It's 30 Days Understanding the Bible. And I felt the calling of doing this video, and we're gonna go day by day. So we're gonna do one video for the next 30 days, and we're gonna go over this book right here. I feel like if you're new to faith, if you're new to trying to get that relationship with Jesus, maybe at the beginning, because it happened to me, I wasn't sure. It's like, what should I be doing? Should I be reading this Bible, or which Bible do I actually use? Because depending on the translation, not every single Bible it's easy to read, right? So I wasn't sure. There was so much out there. I wasn't sure what to do. So I wanted to share a few things with you. Hopefully they help. Okay, so this book, it's called, let me see if you can see it there with the light. So it's 30 Days to Understanding the Bible by Max Anders, okay? And it's pretty good. It has little, like, see that? They look like little quizzes. It's just like every single day, it breaks down the Bible in a way that every single day you learn something about it. And then at the end, it has little quizzes that you can like quiz yourself. Obviously, this is not like a test in school or anything like that, but it's just to train your memory so you can start retaining that information, okay? So it's pretty good, and we're gonna go ahead and start this book today, okay? The other thing that I wanted to mention was, which Bible do I use? So I use, first up, this is my book cover, like my Bible cover. So if you're like me, like I'm a book fanatic and I want to protect my Bible, and just having this makes me excited about reading it. It's silly, but that's how I am. So this one I actually got it from Amazon, and it has my life verse on it, which is be strong and courageous, Joshua 1:9. The Bible that I use is this version. It's NIV. And I use the study Bible because the study Bible has maps. And let me see if I can find you like a quick map here. Let me go back to, give me 1 second. Let me go back to John. There we go, because I know that I have notes in here. So if you can see, this book has tables that help you, not just the book, but in general, the Bible. It has tables that help you like find out, like for example, this one, it says, for example, the crucifixion. So this is talking about the harmony between the Gospels. So it tells you where in the Gospels that particular topic it's found. Give me 1 second. Let me fix the light on my face. There you go. So, and then it has pictures. For example, this one, look at that. That's a nail through the heel bone. Imagine how painful that must have been. So I love this. I love it. And then, as you can see here, let me show you. So in the Bible, Jesus' words are going to be red. You see that? So every little thing here that is written on like red color, that's Jesus talking. And then I make a lot of like highlights, and sorry, I'm like fighting with this light. See, so I make a lot of highlights and notes. And when it comes to highlights and notes, if you're like me that likes to highlight and write a lot, so I found there's specific highlighters, which I didn't know when I started. There's specific highlighters for Bibles, okay? So this one, and obviously I'm not doing ads for these companies or anything like that, but I'm just sharing what it works for me. So this one is Seabright, and then Zebrite. That brand helps a lot, and it doesn't bleed, okay? Also, because the Mr. Pen one, it looks like a gel. If you find a highlighter that looks like a gel instead of like a regular highlighter, this is not a regular highlighter, but it looks like one, The gel ones, they lose their shape and it's kind of hard to use, so I'd rather use this one. Then Mr. Pen, the brand Mr. Pen has these pens that do not bleed, so you can write and it doesn't show on the other side, okay? So just a little hint there, because that helped me a lot when I first started studying my Bible. So with that being said, okay, so the book 30 Days Understanding, you can find it at your local bookstore, maybe like a local like used bookstore. This one in particular, it's $8. I want to say $8, $9 in Amazon. And then because I just checked. And then the Bible, this one is the one I use. You don't have to have this one, but this one is the one that helps me because it speaks in an English that I understand. So this one, it's about like $40 to $50, okay? So the Bible is a little bit more expensive, but it's totally worth it, okay? I mean, we're trying to get a relationship and form this relationship with Jesus, right? Which is the most important person in the world. So how do you sit down and actually create a relationship with somebody, with anybody? Well, you sit down and you talk to them. You ask questions, right? They tell you what they like, what they don't like. You know, you share things in common. You know, you acknowledge what things you don't have in common, and you spend time with them. So the way to do that with Christ, it's with this right here. So it's totally worth it. All right. Oh, and then the last thing, I know it's been almost 7 minutes now, but I just wanted to give you like a preview just to help you out, especially if you're starting. So the last thing that I have a lot of journals. So I like to write, and I recommend having a little journal or like a little book when you're reading the Bible, because you don't want to read just to read. Just take your time. Take a chapter a day, take a paragraph a day, however you feel like you need to start. And write. Think about how that can be applied into your life. Think about how, you know, like what happened in that moment. What was the surrounding? Which people were there? You know, like what was actually happening? What's the message? And sometimes God will like just send it to you. You know, it's not like you have to be thinking about it for 30 minutes to try to you know, to come up with something. Just as you read, things will come to you, and those things that are coming to you, it's God telling you. And sometimes I have experience where I read something and I feel something negative. Well, you know, that's coming from the enemy. You know, like I'm digging deep and the enemy is trying to put negative things and bad things in my head. I'm like, not today, mister. So it's really important to read our Bible. And then I mean, to me, again, you know, it helps to take notes. Okay, so all right, without further ado, let's start with day number 1. Okay, so day 1, let's see. All right, so section 1, we're gonna start with the story of the Old Testament. And then we're gonna go ahead and read chapter 1, okay? So if you don't have the book, you're welcome just to have me in the background and listen to me. If you wanna watch the video, that's cool. If you wanna order it and then just go along with me, that's even better, because that way you have it at home and then you can do the self-test at the end of the day, okay? And it only takes about 15-20 minutes, okay? All right, here we go. The structure of the Bible. Charles Steinmetz. Oh, and by the way, I am so sorry if I mispronounce something, because English is not my first language. So I'll do my very best to have a good pronunciation for you. So Charles Steinmetz was an electrical engineer of towering intellect. After he retired, he was asked by a major appliance manufacturer to locate a malfunction in their electrical equipment. None of the manufacturer's experts had been able to locate the problem. Charles spent some time walking around and testing the various parts of the machine complex. Finally, he took out of his pocket a piece of chalk and marked an X on a particular part of the machine, of one machine. The manufacturer's people disassembled the machine, discovering to their amazement that that defect lay precisely where Charles' chalk mark was located. Some days later, the manufacturer received a bill from Charles, and I keep saying Charles instead of the last name because it's a little hard for me to pronounce. So they received a bill for $10,000. They protested the amount and asked him to itemize it. He sent back an itemized bill, making one check mark $1. Knowing where to place it, $9,999. If you know where the check marks go, the most overwhelming tasks are easily solved. If you don't, even simple tasks can be impossible. Learning about the Bible can be much the same. If you don't know much about it, it can be like trying to cross the Sahara Desert blindfolded. Yet, if you learn where a few of the major check marks go, the Bible will unfold itself to you, allowing you to begin to master it. My own experience bears this out. Many years ago, I decided I was going to master the Bible. I was going to begin with Genesis and read through Revelation. Let me tell you, that doesn't work. And I wasn't going to put it down until I understood it. I soon became hopelessly entangled in a jungle of fantastic stories, unpronounceable names, oh yes, broken plots, unanswered questions, and endless genealogies. I stubbed my toe on Leviticus, sprained my ankle on Job, hit my head on Ecclesiastes, and fell headlong into the mud on Habakkuk. I was defeated. I threw my Bible down, concluding that the Bible was a series of unrelated stories put together in random order. The one day I discovered a key. Then, one day, I discovered a key. With this key, the fog that intruded my understanding of the Bible began to lift. Not that things came into sharp focus, but at least I began to see shapes on the horizon. The key: learning the structure of the Bible. If you want to learn architecture, you must first learn how buildings are put together. If you want to learn sailing, you must first learn how ships are put together. And if you want to understand the Bible, you must first learn how the Bible is put together. The Old and New Testaments. The Bible has two major divisions, the Old Testament and the New Testament. The Old Testament begins with creation and tells the story of Jewish people up to the time of Christ. It is made up of 39 individual books, the book of Genesis, the book of Exodus, etc., written by 28 different authors and spans a period of over 2,000 years. The New Testament is the record of the birth of Jesus, his life and ministry, and the ministry of his disciples, which was carried on after Jesus was crucified. The New Testament is composed of 27 books written by 9 different authors and covers a time period of less than 100 years. The total number of books in the entire Bible is 66. Now, the next page, it has a self-test, and I'm just gonna stop right there. If you can see, there's a page here. You read it, you answer those questions, and it just helps you remember. And then after that, we may continue. So the next page after that, it has a list. It gives you a list of all the Old Testaments, the New Testaments, all those little marks that you see there. That's just me making notes as I go, along the book. Then I go back and kind of like make notes. It helps me study. And then we're gonna go ahead and go to page 7, okay? It says the Old Testament. Here's the key to understanding the Old Testament. Of the 39 books, there are 3 different kind of books. There are the historical books, the poetical books, and the prophetical books. So the historical books, it talks about history, right? The poetical books, it talks about poetry. And then the prophetical books talks about prophecies. If you know what kind of book you're reading, then you will know what kind of information to expect, and you can more easily follow the logical flow of the Old Testament. So the first 17 books of the Old Testament are historical. The next 5 books are poetical, and the next 17 are prophetical. Okay, I'm not gonna name them because otherwise we're gonna be here until tomorrow. But just go back to your list on the previous page, and then you can mark them. That way you can remember a little bit better. Okay, now the 3 kind of books in the Old Testament, again, there's a little list here on the bottom, and then it continues on the back page. Okay, and it says, if you want to read the story of Hebrew nation in the Old Testament, you must read the first 17 books. These books compose a historical timeline for the nation of Israel. If you want to read poetry of Israel, you must read the next 5 books. If you want to read about the prophecy of Israel, you must read the final 17 books. This is somewhat oversimplified because there is some poetry in the historical books, there's some history in the prophetical books, and so on. The point is, however, that each of the books fits into a primary category. If you keep this structure in mind, the Old Testament will begin to take shape for you. My mistake was in assuming that the whole Old Testament was one long unbroken story and that the history would flow evenly and consistently out of one book into the next until they were all finished. Now I know the storyline is contained in the first 17 books. Of the 17 historical books, 11 are primary and 6 are secondary. The history of Israel is advanced in the 11 primary books and repeated or amplified in the 6 secondary ones. The poetical and prophetical books were written during the time period that is constructed in the first 17 books. So now this page has a little timeline, and it shows you when the books were written. So it wasn't all written in chronological order, okay? Now it says, as you can see, Job was written during the time period of the book of Genesis, and Psalms during the book of 2 Samuel, while Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Solomon were written during the time of First Kings, and so on. Sorry about my pronunciation. It's just like I get caught up in the names. But anyway, so it says, to use the analogy, we constructed a similar chart for the U.S. history. Imagine that you read an American history book for the main storyline. The history book would give you the major periods of the USA history. Some of these periods might be associated with a major poet or writer or philosopher. The poets would correspond to the poets of Israel, and the philosophers would correspond to the biblical prophets. Sorry. All right, so here's that little table there, and it just gives you a comparison, okay? Now, we are gonna go ahead and go to the New Testament. We're almost done, okay? And I know this first video is a little bit longer than 20 minutes because of my introduction, okay? But we're almost there for today, okay? All right, so New Testament. So, of the 27 books of the New Testament, there are also 3 different kind of books: the historical, the Pauline epistles, and general epistles. The historical books are the 4 Gospels and the Acts of the Apostles. That Acts, that's written by Luke, okay? So we have a book named Luke, and then we have one named Acts that is written by Luke. Now, the epistle are letters. That's basically what that means. They're letters written to various individuals and church congregations. The Pauline epistles are the letters written by the Apostle Paul. The general epistles are the letters written to individuals and congregations by a number of different people. Hence, the rather generic name general. The primary content in all the epistle letters is the instruction on Christian doctrine and lifestyle. So if we are reading historical books, then we're expecting history. If we're reading the Pauline books, then we're expecting instruction. And then if we're reading the general epistles, then we're still expecting, instruction, okay? So again, we have the first 5 books are historical, the next 13 books are Pauline epistle, and then the last 9 books are general epistles. Now, here we have these columns. So in historical, that's the history of Jesus. Then the Pauline epistles, then I have it divided because we have 9 that are made for the churches, to the churches. And then 4 out of the 13, 4 are made to individuals. And then the general ones are right here, okay? And that's for me, so I know how to pronounce that. Okay, so now we're going back to the next page. We're almost there. So it says, if you want to read the story of Jesus and the church he established, you must read the first 5 books of the New Testament. These 5 books form the historical framework for understanding the entire New Testament. If you want to read the Apostle Paul's instructions to churches and individuals, then read the next 13 books. But if you want to read the instructions to churches and individuals by men, like the Apostle Peter and John, you must read the final 9 books. Now, when it comes to references, to find something in the Bible, you use a standard reference system. This consists of the name of the book of the Bible, the chapter number followed by a colon, and the verse number. Each chapter is divided into numbered verses. So we have a book, for example, the book of Genesis. We have a book, which is the book of Genesis. Then we have a chapter, which would be chapter 1, 2, 3, depending on the book, how many chapters, different ones. And then each chapter is divided into verses. Okay, so let me go back to the Bible real quick so I can show you that in the actual book, okay? So let's go ahead and look at John. I am in love with the book of John, just like book of Romans. Those are one of my favorite books, but all right, so let's just go here, which is where it open. So we have the book of John written up here, this big number 10 here, that's a chapter, and then in little, I don't know if I can focus this, it's a little number here. So let me go down here. Hold on, let me find one that it's easier to see. Okay, so let's see. Here, you see that number? That's 22, right? Yeah, 22. So that means that we are in the book of John, chapter 10. This is all 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. And then right here, that's 10, 22. So it would be John 10, colon 22, when we're talking about that particular verse, okay? All right. So let's see. Sorry, I missed my page. Okay. So when you see a reference such as Joshua 1:21, you will either need to memorize the books of the Bible to know where Joshua is, or you can look it up in the table of contents. It is well worth the time to memorize the books, and it's easiest to memorize them according to their categories. For example, you know that there are 3 types of books in both the Old Testament and the New Testament, and how many books they are in this session. Memorize the first 17. Then when you have this memorized, learn the 5 poetical ones, and so on. This system is much easier than attempting to memorize an unbroken list of 66 books. So to me, it's easier to start with the New Testament because it's a little bit less. And once my brain has them categorized, then if there's a book that is not in the New Testament, then it's gonna be in the Old Testament. And then I start like kind of like memorizing them and like trying to put them in places in the book. So whenever I make all these little notes, for example, when I show you at the beginning, so this is how I just separate them, and I do the same thing on my Bible. And please don't feel overwhelmed with this. I've been doing this for a little while. I started my journey a couple of years ago, and I'm still new, but I felt like I needed to share this with you because there's always people that are new and want to learn and want to know what's best and what's easier, just because it can be a little bit overwhelming, okay? So it's just take your time. You just have to put the time and effort if you want to learn more about Christ, okay, and about his book. So in my Bible, I did about like the same thing. See, I got it divided here, and I put these are the eras, and then what type of books they are. I also have the numbers. So one thing that I learned was like, for example, the New Testament has 27 books. So if you flip that N, that looks like a 2, and the T looks like a 7. So that's kind of like an easy way to remember that. And then the Old Testament has 39. So if you put that 0 on top of that T, that commonly looks like a 9. So you just have to remember 3. So just a little, a little hint. Hopefully that helps you. Okay. All right, guys. Well, last page for today. The last page just has the summary. Okay. So summary of everything that we talked about today, okay? So we have how many books in the Old Testament? We have 39. How many in the New Testament? 27. Remember that N looks like a 2, the T looks like a 7, 27. The Old Testament, 39. So OT, put that 0, like that O on top of the T, and kind of looks like a 9. So 39, just something a little bit easier to remember, and then just make the math. It's 66, okay? Now, the Old Testament, it talks about the story of God and the Hebrew people. They're poets and prophets, right? And there's 3 different type of books: the historical, poetical, and prophetical. Poetical are 5, right? So the other 2, historical and prophetical, are 17. That's the same number. So 5 and 17, I think it's a little easy to remember. Now, the New Testament is the story of Jesus of Nazareth, the church that he founded, and its growth under the leadership of his apostles after his death and resurrection. That New Testament has 5 historical books, 13 Pauline epistles, and 9 general epistles. Now, that may be a little bit harder to remember, but for example, most of us know that there's 4 gospels, right? So the book of Acts, it's part of that historic group, and it's written by Luke, which is one of the gospels. So that kind of helps to remember. I'm gonna show here. 1 second, sorry. So we have these 5 here. So that's kind of how I remember that. And then we have Pauline. Apostle Paul is my favorite apostle ever because I just relate to him a lot. So we have 9 and 4. So I really don't have a way, like a trick to remember that. I just do 9 and 4, and then the total is 13. And then because it's 9 and 4, then the general is 9, which is the same number as the first number of the Pauline epistles, if that makes any sense to help you out. All right, so now you have your self-test. Go ahead and do it whenever you have a chance. And that's it. That's it for today. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna close out with the prayer. I know this video is like twice as long, but remember, it's just the first one, and hopefully you know, we can stay on track and I can make this possible. I'll do my very, very best to post a video every single day, because that's the purpose. I feel like I've been called to do it. So pray for me so I can go ahead and get this done. And yeah, just write me if you need, if you have any comments or anything like that. Okay, so let me pray for you and then we'll go. Okay, all right. Dear Heavenly Father, I want to thank you so very much for today. Thank you for giving me the instruction to do this for you. Thank you for using me as a vessel to share your word and giving me a purpose. Thank you for staying here with me and letting me know that you are present. Lord, I ask that you move each person that is watching this video or listening to this video. Move their hearts, Lord, so that Holy Spirit can work within them and they can come closer and closer and closer to you, so they can get you to know deeper and deeper and deeper. I pray that you bless them with health and with joy and happiness, and then just tons of love, God, despite their circumstances, in the midst of pain or grief or this crazy pandemic. Lord, just I pray that we can just see that you're still here with us and that our faith grows stronger and stronger each day. I bless that you shine upon them and that they really seek you, just like I'm seeking you, Lord, because you're the only one that matters in the world, Lord. And I know this is not easy. It's not an easy road, but it's so worth it, Lord. So I pray that we can, you know, we can come and create this community of Christians that, you know, we just want to get to know you better. We just want to be closer to you and see what you have to say and just be better and glorify you, Lord. I pray all of this in your name, Jesus. Thank you for everything and thank you for loving us. Okay, I love you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right, guys. Bye. Till